I'll sit here, it's been so long. The whole thing.
Hi, Ken. I didn't recognize you in person at first. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to not speak.
Copy this for her.
No, this is what Will sent us, so I'm presuming.
So it's something
She has
different.
that.
I
This
have
is from
what-
Wade.
From Wade,
Here
okay.
you go.
Oh, still copy this.
Thank you, Christy.
No problem.
Sorry about that, Kim.
Did you want to copy that?
Sure, I was just,
Chris.
Joyce sent me some and I just started to read it. I didn't get all of it in, but I was reading as much as I could.
So I noticed that our contract, the agreement,
Well, let's open the meeting.
says that quarterly service reports should be given.
Okay. All right,
Hi, Marie.
Hello.
why don't we go ahead and call the meeting to order? Okay, and with us today, we have, Jan Culbertson via Zoom. She will participate, however, she's not able to vote because she's not here in person. We have Kim Moore and Ken Anderson. And myself, Joyce Parker. And then from the staff with the city, we have Chris Chang. Now, do we have anyone else attending the meeting via Zoom as a participant?
My name's Marie Gress. I am the new executive director at Wave, and thank you for having me today.
Thank you for coming, Maria. Okay, anyone from SEMCOG? Is there anyone else, Chris?
We have Marie, just introduce herself, Kathy, Jan, Pam, Boyd, and Rob.
Okay, all right. Okay, the third item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the January 19th, 2024 meeting.
I did not get minutes.
It was with, Will sent them out, so I have a copy here to take a look at.
So this is what I got from Will, but no
Okay.
minutes.
Yeah, the minutes, I think he sent 2 emails.
Oh.
Yeah. But did you get it? Here you go.
Well, thank you.
I made copies thinking we might have, and Chris, I'll give you a copy too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so why don't we just take a minute, take a look at the minutes, and if they look okay, then I will need a motion for the approval of the minutes, or at least the acceptance, because I think as it stands right now, we only have 2 members present. With you and I, Kim.
Okay,
Yeah,
so we don't have a quorum.
we don't have a quorum for a meeting
Then I would move that we table.
until the
approval of
next
the
meeting.
minutes. Yeah.
Okay,
Sounds good. Thank you. Stuff in the.
Okay.
It's all about favors. Okay.
okay, so we're gonna table the meeting, the minutes until our next meeting.
Is there a second to my motion?
I'll support it.
I guess, no.
I don't think we can actually act because there's only 2 of us, so we're kind of functioning as a committee of the whole. Yeah, okay. Now, at the January 19th meeting, we had a discussion on several items. And one that we discussed was a new development map. And included in the material, the map has been made available to all the members. And we'll provide the information. If there are like detailed questions, I would probably defer until our next meeting.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. And then another follow-up item is related to the ridership information by stop. Ken, you were gonna provide additional information in
I
that.
do have that,
Okay.
so I will, after this meeting, I will email out, we have a digital copy of this, but for this afternoon, I'll just give everybody a physical copy.
This is the Scio development map, right?
Pardon?
I was asking Trish, thank you.
Yes, this where is the development map showing where current developments are located, potentially new developments will be located. And I think the committee wanted the information so that as we move forward and we talk about any changes in ridership or the routes, we have that information as a resource.
So the orange circles would be the stops.
So, the way that this is broken out is purple stops are in what we call the outbound direction and going out from Ann Arbor, because of course it's the center of the universe, is how we defined outbound. For most of the routes out in Scio Township, it'll be the westbound routes. So purple is in one direction, and then orange is in the other direction, headed back into Ann Arbor. And then the way that it's broken up is I tried to, yesterday I was introduced to this software online, so yesterday's the first day I've ever used this. I'm sorry that this is a little messy. So I tried to break this up into different groupings so the smallest circles are, as shown in the legend, are technically 0 to 2. And then the next largest are 2 to 5, and then 5 to 10, and then anything above 15 is the largest circle. The reason why it goes up to 389 is because this is stops across the entire system. So the largest stop in Scio Township right now would be the Meyer out on, or the highest ridership stop in Scio Township right now would be the Meyer out at Jackson and Z. And so they have 31 riders per day on an average week.
That's where the big purple is?
Yep.
Okay.
And then the next
31
largest,
riders per day.
yes,
Okay, so that's the numbers that you show are the number of riders per day at each one of these
yes,
locations.
and that's an average weekday for back in September of 2022. I'm working on getting a second map made up for September of 2023 so that we have a comparison. So the largest stops that you can see are, the largest one is the 31 riders a day out at Meyer. The second largest one is an orange one, is Jackson and Wagner on the south side of the street. And that's 20 riders per day. And then the third largest one is down on Scio Ridge Road out around Chase Boulevard and in that area where all the apartment complexes are. And that one is 15 riders a day.
And where's
Now, where's that
Chase?
again?
Chase is Scio Ridge between Liberty and about halfway between Liberty and Scio Church Road.
These were taken, you said in 2022?
Yes.
Is that,
So I've looked at 2023, just the numbers themselves. We don't have them plotted out yet. They're basically about a rider per day more or so than what 2022 is right now.
Oh, I see. So you drop down here where Liberty is, and that's what you're looking at. I see.
I'm curious because I actually use the bus stop. I live right there in Hometown Village. And I've been counting like in 2024, like early on.
Okay.
I know at like approximately 8 o'clock, there's like 20 riders on there at 8 o'clock in the morning. So is this broken up when you say 15 riders per the whole day, or is it for a certain time?
Per
During the-
day, for an average weekday, and it's being, the problem that
Yeah,
we're
this-
having right now is this all has to be assembled by hand, so we
Okay,
have to take this with a.
there's
Right.
more. I can tell you, I know there's more on that route.
Okay.
Just at like 8 o'clock in the morning, counting the number of passengers.
So this is more
So-
than Jackson Road. We're talking
Yeah, this
Liberty
is-
line as well, not just the 30.
Yeah, this is 26 and 29, 31 and 30, I think, so. Okay, I was just curious. It seems like those numbers might be a little
Yeah, they
light.
seem low.
Yeah. You could almost say that
This is
per,
back in, you said 2022.
Mhm.
So maybe we need the most recent
Yeah.
information, but then at the same time, at our last meeting, you had indicated that ridership had decreased since COVID.
It has.
Yeah, so do you think it will exceed what you have here if you look at 2023 or?
So from what I've seen, just by looking, putting numbers next to numbers and charts, it does look like 2023 is a little bit above what these numbers are. So I'm having our data person work on plotting those out right now too.
Okay,
how are they being recorded? Is this like by swipes or people hand counting, or how are you determining like the
Yeah.
numbers?
So
It's the
when
swipe, so it's,
either the swipe or when a person gets on board the bus, the driver keys in a fare. That's what the beep that you hear when you get on. So what they have, each one of those gets recorded in our database system for the fare counting. That's a separate record. And so what our data analyst has to do is she has to basically manually go through, plot these out in GIS, draw circles around the stops, and then try to group which ones she thinks fits within individual stops. So it's a process, and there's probably prone to error.
is
So
there
it's-
any exemptions? Like, would students or senior citizens, would they be exempt from the counts, or they're all being
It
counted?
should all be counted.
Okay.
Anybody that gets logged by the driver should be counted on these counts.
I noticed at the top it says updated in 2024, but this info is 22,
Oh,
top left.
yes, correct.
Okay.
so Ken, you think you might have the updated information maybe by our next meeting?
Yes, that's the target.
Okay,
I also then, we went back to look at the demand response, so the door-to-door ridership for A-Ride. A-Ride in Scio Township only operates ADA service, which means it only operates within 3/4 of a mile from the bus routes. We looked, because Forrest wasn't sure whether there was a contract for the entire township, and there is not. So all the ridership that we have, and I have a chart of those. We haven't been able to plot them out, but the ridership pretty much lines up with what's here. The major destinations are the apartment complexes down on Scio Ridge Road, Menards, Meyer, it basically lines up with here. So what I will do, after we're done with this meeting, is I will put a table of the top 15 destinations, trips, places where they either start or end a trip within Scio Township. And then I will put together a list of where those are at.
So when you say Scio Ridge, Menards and Meyer, those are destinations or pickup and destination?
It could be either one.
Pickups, okay.
So I'll give a list of the top 10 to 15 destinations, and then the top of, or
Thank
the
you.
list, the origin or the destination. So, and then they're probably gonna overlap with each other significantly. But I just wanted to clarify that, we didn't put together a big map of the entire township because the service doesn't extend outside that far.
this is the A-Ride service?
Yes. And so A-Ride is a complimentary service that operates at the same hours of the day and days of the week as fixed route service. And it operates within 3/4 of a mile of fixed routes. And it will pick up anybody that qualifies, and we use different agencies to help us. Anybody that has mobility challenges or other challenges that would keep them off of fixed route service can apply to become qualified to use A-Ride. And so those are the trips that type of service provides. And then
So
anybody
disabled,
disabled and then over 64, 65.
and do you guys still use the gold card? The senior gold card, where you ride
Yes.
free?
But as I understood, that got repriced to make it very not attractive to use. So because it was a premium service, our former operations deputy went through and redid the fare structure on that. Basically to head people either over to using fixed route or onto using the demand response, you know, the A-Ride stuff.
So who's the seniors and the disabled were overusing the service?
It was becoming, well, you know, it's a very expensive service.
Oh, absolutely.
And so the fares were restructured to incentivize people to shift away from same day stuff and to move over towards the the booking in advance or to get on the fixed route.
Okay.
So, but that made your ridership numbers look good though.
I mean,
Well, don't you report ridership to MDOT and federales? That's what they want to see,
I don't think
ridership,
Gold Route
trip-
actually had that much.
trips.
You didn't have that many participants?
Gold Ride didn't feel like it was a big thing in comparison to A-Ride and the others, but without having that in here in front of me, I'm not gonna speak too much to it.
So your A-Ride operates, what are your hours?
Same as fixed route, so on weekdays approximately 6 AM till midnight. And then on weekends. 8 o'clock until 9 o'clock-ish. It's correctly.
And while you're looking at that, Ken, how do people in Scio know that the service is available?
Or demand response or everything.
Service.
So I will go back to, Robert is our demand response coordinator and I can get the more detailed information on this. I know that we do communicate this through the channels that we do for fixed routes. So anywhere that we send out ride guides, you know, the printed schedule books and online and things like that. We usually we have their books that kind of describe what all the A-Ride and other demand response services are. I believe those get sent out to those locations. Robert makes contact and his staff make contact with different social service agencies and then
Okay,
doctor's offices and other places like that are, if I remember correctly, for the qualification process, you do have to go through a doctor's office for mobility impairment. And then for other types of reduced fare programs for things like that, you have to go through social service agencies. So we also push information out through those as well.
Okay.
and these, what you told us today, the pickups and the drop-offs is 2022 for A-Ride is 2020.
The A-Ride is 2023, so an
2023,
average
well.
for September 2023.
So, and I don't know if you have this information or not, but maybe it's something you could provide for the next meeting.
Mhm.
In the September 6th communication that Forrest Yang sent, he provided information on the cost for the services.
Okay.
Like, for example, in fiscal year 2023, for the fixed route service, it was 367,000. But if you look at moving forward to fiscal year 23-24, it increases to 390. And then 2024 to 25, it increases to 462,000. That's just for the fixed route service.
That's for everything.
For everything. Well, and then he gives more information on A-Ride for demand response. And let's say we look at fiscal year 23-24. That was 55,000 for the A-Ride. I guess the question that I'm really asking is, what is the cost per ridership, per rider?
So Joyce, you might want to remember that last time Mr. Yang said that we don't pay for A-Ride. That our millage doesn't pay for A-Ride. That's something that's required by MDOT or federal
Yeah.
DOT.
But you know, I guess I was really trying to just get a sense of how active and what's the use, you know, how useful is the service overall?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And I would ask too, I see that you list capital costs.
Yeah, you
And
got
I
the
think that
capital.
that's not, that doesn't inure to us either, that we don't pay that. Is that, as I understood it,
well, we're paying a portion of it. I think under this scenario, it's added to the cost of our
yeah, it
service.
says local,
Yeah.
total local cost,
Right,
but
so the total, let's say for, the upcoming year was 580,000, that's with everything. I just wonder, like, the cost per rider.
Okay.
What do we, yeah,
and if you, we're gonna compare some stuff,
yeah.
this other information, so see what.
Okay.
So that too, Ken, because I was under the impression, I may have misunderstood, because I was trying to write notes and listen at the same time, but I thought we didn't pay for A-Ride and also we didn't pay for capital costs.
I will get that clarified from Forrest.
That
Yeah.
instead, that
And based on-
subtotal is
based
what
on
we were
this,
paying, but.
Yeah, I guess we should get some clarification, because looking at this, we're paying for all of those services.
And when you mentioned capital costs, if we do pay for it, is that the cost of maintenance? Surely that's not the cost of purchase of bill of
No, that'll be. We have to break it out because of
gas.
the way that the feds and state divide up their funding. Capital cost is only specifically vehicle purchases and infrastructure related type things. So anything like maintenance and fuel and driver costs and all like that, that all just goes into operating costs.
Okay, well, so I'd like to do, what is could you define capital cost?
Okay.
Okay.
If I may, typically capital costs for certain funds are covered entirely by state and federal dollars. So I think it's a really good clarification question if capital is something you're paying for, to know what exactly that is. Because when Wave purchases new vehicles or replacement vehicles, those are typically 100% covered by state and fed dollars. I also wanted to share that Meyer on Zeeb Road is also our highest destination within Scio Township. And for us, I don't have September 2022, but I have September 23. That was 8 to 12 rides per day for us. And we're also doing a manual system.
When you say manual, you mean the drivers are taking account.
Yep, the drivers are checking on a piece of paper. Someone's getting on here or someone's getting off here.
So Maria, when you say 8 to 12 riders per day, are they going specifically to the Meyer or are they going to other locations?
So that 8 to 12 rides per day is specifically getting on or off at Meyer. Where they go after that, we're not tracking.
Okay,
But they're getting on or off at that stop.
okay.
And I might add that we had remember I asked a question last time to Ken and Mr. Yang, that whether or not there was a transfer requirement, or do we pay additional fare at Meyer?
Mhm.
When, let's say folks are coming from, going out west, getting off at Meyer, wanting to get to Scio Farms, they have to pay additional fare for Wave bus, or is there a transfer given, and they pay an additional fare?
On both?
That's correct. They pay a fare on AATA and then they pay an additional fare to get on the Wave bus.
Oh, okay.
Since you were talking about the contract that you have for your millage, a question that I have, I was put in this position November, full-time in this position in November. And so I have some questions around your transportation millage and how it's distributed between AATA and the WAVE. So far,
So can I interrupt you? Can we
Yeah.
talk about the numbers? I'm gonna go over the numbers a little bit, just to kind of speed it up a little bit, okay?
Okay, so are we switching to another topic?
Well, I guess you call it, I'm gonna give you the, wave stuff,
Okay,
wave connection,
okay.
or not.
You can. I was just gonna ask Jana if she's still on, if she had any questions before we move on to the next item.
I'm good, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Ken.
Yeah, just this handout that I gave you, the first 3 pages are Marie's, response to me about fares.
Okay.
And also the question about whether or not there's a double fare to get off AATA and Meyer and go to Scio Farms, for instance. And so that you can get kind of straightforward. I'm gonna move forward beyond that. And then you'll see a spreadsheet that looks like this. And these are the route, they call the community connector. This is our fixed route with Waves. It goes to, one is, we just renamed it to Jackson Road Corridor. That goes from Meyer down to, or Thornton Farms down to, which is just on the other side of Parker Road. It goes down Jackson Road and back, and that helps to create some frequency along Jackson Road. In addition to AATA covering that stretch as well, except for just to Meyer. And then there's the other community connector that goes from Meyer out to Dexter, out to Chelsea. And these are figures that are for those routes. But more importantly, if you can look at the 1, 2, 3, 4th page of that spreadsheet, that looks a little bit like this, down, where it says purpose. Yeah, okay. And that where you'll see CC1 and CC2 on your left.
Mhm.
It's the that's the community connector that goes to Chelsea, so westbound. And what was used to be CC2 is now called the Jackson Road Corridor. Okay, or connector, Jackson Road Connector. And if you follow those 2 across under transfer to the right. So this, correct me if I'm wrong, Marie, these 2 numbers, the 31,517 and the 16,933, cover 4 or 5 years.
it was 5 years, I believe, from October 2018 through September 2023.
Okay, and that's about 48,450 rides going each way. So we figured it's about that these 2 routes are dropping off or picking up about 10,000 rides a day. For the year,
For the year.
I apologize, for the year, 10,000, as opposed
So
to
it sounds like it's pretty busy.
right,
Yeah.
as opposed to, compared to, I should say, AATA that's picking up 15,000 in or out. Okay, so that I wanted to show you. These are, the others are really not related to us. They're other services that we provide, but they're not related to what our millage in Scio Township. And then I want to take you to this few pages down, page, I think is kind of interesting.
Right, this one?
One more. There's quite a few pages in that spreadsheet. No, one more. There are extra pages because it goes across and that's it.
Is it? Okay.
And that represents figures from each year on door-to-door service of Scio residents. And I think Marie, correct me if I'm wrong, she pulled this to calculate this on addresses. So these are addresses that people are picked up in Scio, and that's how we know they're Scio residents. So if you look at in 2023 at the bottom, she also gives you an interest about riders and trips. And so there's disabled, not disabled, senior, adult. And so there were 27 riders in 2023 and 1,465 trips in 2023. So that means of 27 riders, could be 4, could be all 27, but they created 1,464
So they're
trips.
really using the service.
Yeah. I mean, I imagine we have more than 27 seniors, but yeah.
Yeah.
And she lays that out. I thought this was a good, some good information. And then the last piece I want to show you, because you can kind of, don't want to spend the whole meeting going over this, this is very interesting. This is all the riders coming into Scio
Is that the
by
right,
area.
this one?
Mhm.
Okay.
So at the top or at the bottom in 2020, well, let's say 2023, which is the second page, there were 457 people coming from Chelsea in the Scio. There were 171 people coming from Dexter, 282 from Lima. And Webster Township, 348, City of Ann Arbor, 114, and Lodi, 14. And I think the Scio Township figure of 6,980 represented people within our, explain that, Marie. I
Yeah,
forget.
so those are the rider got on the service in Scio Township and then got off the service in Scio Township. So those almost 7,000 rides started and they all stayed within Scio. They didn't leave to go somewhere else.
Okay. And so what happens, I think, Marie, is that our drivers are detailing some of this information.
Yep, for our door-to-door services, that's automatically captured when we book them in the system because we can pick up their start and their end point. And then for the fixed route services, our drivers are manually saying which stop they're getting on and which stop they're getting off. And so then we use that paper to put it in the system.
Okay, and then the last page is the map of our service areas and different townships that we've covered with Wave. And then the other piece of information is, I erroneously mentioned that we got $668,000 from the millage that passes through AATA. And instead, we get 100,000 a year that passes from the millage that passes through AATA. We were having some technical problems with AATA, so we missed payments. We met with them and we got things straightened out. I guess you guys had a staff change and stuff. And so now we're back on track, and that's how because for a while we were getting 68.
Right.
So that's the real number, $100,000 of the millage comes to us.
I think got sorted out.
Pardon me?
So I'm glad that got sorted out.
Yeah, we are
Yeah,
too, because that's a
I can
major.
imagine, yeah.
So with that being said, and let's look at the 2023 figure. The fixed route service is
Now, which
300.
one are you looking at?
I'm looking at the AATA memo.
Okay, all right.
And it says in 2023, we paid $367,399 for our fixed route. Now, was that a hundred, does the $100,000 that comes to Wave, is that deducted from that 367, or is that already deducted?
I will check with Forrest on that.
For all the way across for 23, 24,
Okay.
25, what
So
are
the-
those numbers actually?
Okay, let me, just so I make sure I'm getting this right, the question is the $100,000 that we pass through the wave, is it included within the numbers that Forrest mentioned in that memo, or is it separate?
Right.
Okay. Okay, yep.
Okay.
That's all I have on our information.
Thank you for bringing all of this to us.
Well, thank you, Marie.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
of course.
because these are
Marie,
real
did you-
good numbers.
Yeah, did you have any other comments related to the packet or in reference to transit services?
I'm sorry, are you speaking to me?
Yes, I just wondered if you had any other comments.
Just some questions about your millage and how the distribution works. And then I have a question, this is probably a different topic, but on when we want to make updates to your routes, what sort of process would you like us to follow for that?
Okay.
So I interrupted you, Marie. You were about to
Yes,
ask. or-
question on the millage distribution. It sounds like Kim, you just asked, I'm sorry, what was your name in the blue?
Ken Anderson.
Ken. It sounds like you just asked Ken about some of that, but I wondered if you all at Scio Township knows how those amounts are supposed to be distributed, or if AATA gets to make that decision. And then another piece of that distribution, we have been, it looks like we've been using your millage dollars to mainly support the Jackson Road connector, a little bit of the community connector that goes Chelsea, Dexter, and Arbor, and then also your door to door. But I want to make sure that when we're using your millage dollars for those services, that we're distributing that appropriately to match your needs and desires.
So for how the millage money is distributed, I will get you in touch with somebody from our finance department. That is definitely not my area of expertise, so I don't want to say anything wrong and give you, misleading information about that.
Great. So AATA decides. Scio doesn't decide.
Well, no. The role that we play, because this is a purchase of service agreement for the township, is that Scio comes to us, the township government comes to us with different requests for service, and then we try to put together proposals to meet those requests, but ultimately it's the township that decides the level of service and where they want to put it. So, with WAVE, I'm assuming, and I'm not gonna speak on behalf of everybody, that's probably a similar type of relationship. We're just a pass-through agency for that type of funding.
Okay.
Well, obviously, we're the customer. We, to some degree, we certainly dictate our, what kind of service we want.
And that's the purpose, I think, of this
Yeah.
committee, is to really kind
Sure.
of dig in and make some assessment on how we move forward and what, if there are changes, what type of changes are necessary.
Yeah, and one of the things I've noticed, I mentioned this to Will a while ago, is that because I'm on the board with WAVE, I see what kind of service the other communities are getting. And most of the dollars are spent on door to door. Chelsea pays for this connector routes I've been talking about. And it's just interesting. We go out to Manchester, it's all door to door. We go to Stockbridge, it's all door to door. There's several services we provide in Chelsea. They pay for it. They have a downtown shuttle, they have and then they have door to door, et cetera. And so I began to talk to Marie about, do we pick up people? And actually I started talking to Ms. Roberts, who was our former executive director, about, do we pick up people on down ride? Or can I get a ride as a Scio resident? Because I know we have this millage. And so that kind of got some conversations going, and that's why Marie has been digging into these numbers. So turns out we are servicing the Scio Township on a dollar ride basis. And then the other thing I wanted to say was that it seemed to me that the level of expenditure was focused on our Jackson Road corridor. And obviously, we're servicing our commercial market, bringing workers into the community, getting our residents out to other communities to go to jobs, et cetera. But so I just, my view is, as we proceed, we should look at what are our dollars and what are our needs for, and what is that balance act? And, because I look at the numbers from WAVE, we're knocking it out, trying to provide some service here, and we could maybe do better. We could maybe do better. I mean, for instance, there are a number of children that live in Scio Farms that are in the Ann Arbor School District, but they want to go to Dexter schools. Well, Dexter schools, because it's outside of, it would be school of choice basis, and it's outside of where they can send their buses, they're looking for us to transport their kids to their school, our kids to their schools, and that's something I think Marie wanted to ask this body about whether or not we could use the funding we're getting to do that. So, but, I think there's some creative ways to do some stuff. And then, for instance, we have that big development out on Jackson Road that we talked to you guys about last time about extending your line bus out to Baker. You know, Wave can pick that up, and, you know, maybe for a few more dollars, we could do that more.
You mean, as far as looking at other options
Mhm.
to service that area, which is one of the items, you know.
And looking at expense of each
Yeah.
service.
Mhm. So actually, Kim, on that point, one of the items on our agenda is to really kind of talk about like options for service. And I think you raised a good point about that Baker Road area and, you know, how do we cover the area that we currently do not provide the service? So one of the things I was thinking we could either do today, or we could think about it and bring our ideas back for the next meeting. What are some of the options for service expansion? That's not gonna cost us more money. It's a matter of maybe being creative with how we utilize our resources from the millage.
I think it's a great question.
Yeah. Do you want me to maybe think about placing that back on the agenda for the next meeting? Hopefully we'll have Jan and Will here as well,
Yeah.
and Forrest, and we can just really spend some time brainstorming.
Okay.
Okay.
Was there something else, Marie, that you wanted to? I mean, I
Just,
know we didn't correctly answer your question about who makes the big decision, but
yeah, it sounds
I
like
think we
that's
kinda
something
did.
that needs to be discussed a little bit more, which is good. I'm so glad to be listening to this discussion. The other thing that Kim just mentioned was the schools, and connecting Scio Farms to Dexter schools. I've talked with AATA how they've done this in the past, when they were providing rides for residents to school using their fixed routes, and they did a planned deviation. It's within the guidelines of state charter or state, yeah, just state guidelines. And so I wanted to ask you, as the township, if you are comfortable with me looking into that deviation, what that might cost, making sure that, of course, we're still prioritizing that connection, that transfer connection at Meyer at Zeep Road. Is that something you're comfortable with Wave looking into
I
more?
think so.
so just so everybody understands, this would be our the fixed route with the community connector. Cause that goes to Dexter
Mhm.
and they would deviate from there. They have time points like AAT has time points along the route. And they would deviate to go in and pick up students, get back on, and then deviate, get off to the school, that kind of thing.
So Maria's talking about like going into Scio Farms, picking up students that might be participating in schools of choice.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think it would be helpful to have that
Yes.
information.
Great.
I did that as a bus driver, so I knew that we could do it, and I asked Marie to look into that with AATA, so.
Yeah, I think, Maria, that information would be really beneficial.
Great. I'll pull that together.
And as long as it's a public schedule, you know, that it's a trip that's published and then anybody can board and it's part of regular service, then yeah, we
It's not a special, yeah.
just can't do
Right.
special, you can't do dedicated school services.
Okay.
Correct.
Now you're gonna get what's the info you're gonna get to us, Marie?
I wanted to take a deeper dive into what that deviation timing would look like, if there's additional cost, making sure that we have all of our communication and updates happening in a timely way. Like Ken just mentioned, it has to be public. There are certain things we have to make sure that we're doing as part of a public route and not a school route. And then if there's any additional costs with any of that, and just wanting to make sure we're all on the same page about what that would be. I don't anticipate a lot of additional cost, if any, because we already stop at Scio Farms and we already go into Dexter, and so the deviation really shouldn't be anything significant. But it is a deviation from the route you all have established, and so I just wanted to check in with this group about it.
Okay.
Anything else?
No, thank you.
Jan has her hand up.
Yeah, I had a quick question. In some conversations with WISD, they expressed that there isn't a link kind of from Scio Ridge to ISD, and so some of their they think some more of their employees would take public transit if somehow there were, there, we don't have the walkways. This may be more pathways and linkages, but they noted that that there isn't a good way, to get there after with the Scio Ridge bus route.
That's something that I believe you can look at that, right, Marie? I mean, we're starting to do some shuttling of employees out of Jackson into Chelsea. We're looking at
Yeah, we're looking at that.
St. Louis Center is looking to get some shuttle service that we're in Grass Lake. So we're talking all those areas.
Yeah, just
That
pulling
would
up.
be more than a deviation. So
Yeah, that might be an additional cost.
we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is in our service area, so I'm happy to look into it. I also see that it's right, WISD is right off of Wagner, and I know that AATA is doing Wagner.
No, not that area of Wagner.
But is that an option?
Fixed route, probably not.
Okay.
Remember that Forrest had mentioned that we're kind of up against the wall right now for additional buses and drivers and
Yeah,
things,
to
so
expand.
whatever we want to do. I mean, I like, Kim, what you mentioned before about maybe getting creative with enhancing Wave,
Mhm.
figuring out if, maybe the resources going forward more should be funneled towards them to be able to handle, to pick up some of this stuff in the interim.
So this is kind of gets into that project map we were talking about. There, perhaps a big rental project right at the corner of Liberty and Wave. And when we were talking about the planning commission, we thought the Liberty bus came up to Wagner, over to Scio, and then in Scio, but we realized it stopped short at Scio Ridge. So that's one of and I'm not sure where that, it's been approved. I don't know. It's at the the Board of Trustees level right now. So I don't know, but that is one of the projects on the map that you were provided with. So that may be something that.
And Jan, if you could connect me with those individuals, I have a temporary workaround. It's using our door-to-door service. They just have to call, each of them individually have to call and ask for a ride at the same time. They can share a ride to WISD, and it's actually reduced cost because they're sharing the ride. And so that would be an immediate solution.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I'm not sure where they start. They've been using the Scio Ridge and walking, and that's sort of, Chris, the idea of trying to connect a pathway in between ISD and Scio Ridge, so they don't, because walking on the roads there is not.
So
There's
it
a
sounds like they're coming from east, like the Ann Arbor area or.
Yeah,
east.
it does. But, it would be good. I'll connect you, Marie, and we can, find out a little bit more factually about what that looks like. So sure, we'll do.
Great, thanks.
Okay. Are we ready to move on to the next item? So, one of the, questions that came up at our last meeting related to, elections, that's for this year. And I believe, I hope everyone received, an email that I received from, Jessica Flintoff, our township clerk. And, included in the email, she stated that there's possibly a special election May 5th, which is too early, I think, for us, but but if there was one called by the township, the board would have to act not later than February 13th.
Oh,
Yes, that's what I'm thinking. It's too soon for us. Okay.
What would you be needing?
As far
To
this.
get people to the polls or?
Oh, for this particular election? Well, actually, this committee is charged with providing recommendations related to the bus millage going forward. And in order to, have the board act on it, they've asked this committee to take a look at all of the options, and provide a recommendation. So I'm thinking February 13th would be too soon because our work will not be finished, I'm thinking, until the end of March. Yeah. So the other part that she provided, she stated that there's a primary election August 6th. And in order to have something on the ballot, it would have to be ready by May 14th. If you haven't received this, I'll have it sent out to you.
Okay, but
I don't think I got. the-
Okay.
yeah,
By May, August 6th.
because what was the deadline for the August 6th one then?
May 14th.
Okay, May 14th.
And I guess, so. Jessica would be looking for transportation.
For the transit millage, I mean, if we're thinking of
Oh, having the transit millage
Millage.
on, okay.
for August 6th, we would need to have, the proposal ready by May 14th.
I see.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's,
yeah. And then the other thing she stated is that the, Washtenaw County Road Commission has announced that they will have a renewal, on this ballot for August 6th. And then, lastly, the general election is November 5th. And in order to have something on the ballot for the November 5th election, it would have to be, approved by August 13th. So I just wanted to share that information with you. She said she'll keep us updated as change takes place with these dates and any, item being placed on the ballot. Okay, any questions on that item? And then, at our last meeting, we also talked about maybe looking at, putting together a community engagement plan. I think as we move forward related to, an upcoming, millage on the ballot, there's a need to maybe get feedback from our ridership, others in the community. And so, again, I don't know if this is the best meeting because we are kind of short a couple of people, but I think we need to dedicate some time to kind of think about that plan and what it would entail and kind of put some type of a timeline together.
see, I was thinking a little bit about that. And I was thinking perhaps one of the tools we could use is a survey, a short survey.
Yeah.
To go out to households.
Just
Yeah.
to see what their interest is.
Because one of the things that is not very well known about wave service is that regular riders can ride. You don't have to be a senior, you don't have to be disabled. So for instance, if your child wants to get picked up and go to the Dexter Library from Scio Township. They can go, and then they get picked back up and taken home. They do their research for their school project. Or, and I don't know if this is possible, but Marie, could, could a child get picked up in Scio and go to the library, the public library on Oak Valley Drive, which is right off of, Scio Church Road?
Yeah, those 12 and older are allowed to ride the vehicle at will. Anyone younger than that would just need parental permission. All the rides would need to be scheduled with a parent.
Okay, and but I'm just saying, I think that library is not properly in Scio Township. It's like a few blocks outside of Scio Township, and I'm just wondering if that library could be covered as well.
Yeah, the nice thing about being a nonprofit is we can be a little looser with some of those lines. So yeah, we would be happy to do that.
So I think the survey certainly would be something we should look at. I guess one question I have, with Maria being here and you, Kim, how do you kind of advertise your service, related to WAVE?
I think that'd be a great question. I can answer some of it, but you would get the more detailed answer from Marie.
Yeah, so we've recently updated our website. Before now, it was pretty outdated and it was an HTML inaccessible format, especially if you're somebody who needs to use accessibility tools. So all that's been updated. We do now have a lot of social media, but most importantly, we have an amazing community relations coordinator who is in the community almost every single day. She goes to events at all of our townships. She'll, stand in for me if I can't make it to other community meetings. Between her and I, we try to really be in front of as many people as possible. And we're finding that one-on-one, that human connection, being physically present with people is really helping spread our word a lot more. She's updated all of our brochures and pamphlets. We now have some writer books that have all of our schedules in there. And so we're trying to be as multimodal as possible with staying in a nonprofit budget for advertising.
So one, we just recently changed our logo. And so that's part and parcel of the bus stop. I don't know if you saw my email today about a community relations person reached out to me who should we talk to about bus stops along the.
Oh, I
Jackson
saw
Road
that.
corridor.
Yeah.
So that's gonna have a new look as
Okay.
well, but so I guess that's why you're kind of relooking at locations and stuff as well, Marie.
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, it sounds like, you really do a lot on your website, and then you have a person that's really out in the community.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We also do events ourselves. We go to the farmer's market is one of those events. This year, there was in the Dexter Township, one of the women that's on our board, WAVE board, as well as a resident of Dexter Township. She's got
Lavender farm.
thank you very much. I'll
Mhm.
see your moment, a lavender farm, and she does a Christmas lights thing. And so the WAVE had about 3 locations in Dexter, Chelsea, and actually in Scio at Meyer to shuttle people out to the event. So there's stuff like that going on too. And I think, you're engaged with the Chamber of Commerce at
In most of our
Chelsea.
communities. Mm-hmm. And-
So, go ahead, Maria.
I was just going to say, and if there's any avenues that you typically use to advertise what's going on in the township, we would love if you would consider putting WAVE as in part of those advertisings.
Okay, absolutely. And actually, there was the open house at the fire station. That might be a really good thing to look at moving forward because of the number of people that are really exposed and participating. And then I know Jan had her environmental sustainability,
Shasta went to that. Yeah, our community relations coordinator. Mhm.
okay, yeah, they both were very well attended. Ken, anything you can share in reference to what is being done through AAATA as far as the outreach, community outreach? Or is
So
that more of a Forrest question?
what we typically do, we have a community relations department as well. And so what they typically work on are ongoing communications, which means any times that there's service adjustments or just anything related to service that's kind of on an ongoing basis. We push that out on vehicles. We put that out through memos to drivers to have them talk. If there are special events in the community, and we can get the staff together for it, you know, some of the community festivals in Ann Arbor and Ypsilanti and other places, we send tables out for things like that. But if there are particular campaigns, like the one that's being worked on right now is for the upcoming millage expansion, community relations department will work with a marketing firm to put together, you know, radio ads and newspaper ads and different things like that. We don't typically do that for, you know, just ongoing day-to-day service type stuff. But we do, if, you know, if needed, we can communicate, or if you're looking for public engagement for this community or for these meetings or something, you know, we can put that out on the buses. We can, you know, push that out through different ways as well.
Okay. Maybe, you know, part of what we could do for the next meeting is just touch base with your community relations person and get additional information on how we might be able to collaborate.
Okay.
The same with Wade as well, if that would work.
Sure.
Okay.
I have a question for Ken. Ken, do you have any EV vehicles?
Not yet.
Not yet.
We just got done doing a EV study. And the recommendations that came out of that, I'll keep it short. Recommendations that came out of that were just because of the way that our service is structured, and with how the vehicles have to be out for so long, is they're actually leaning toward hydrogen. Instead
Oh,
of
because they're
looking-
out on the route so long. And does that mean that the batteries don't last long?
Right.
Cause we have a couple of EV vans and we're getting EV buses pretty soon, EV chargers.
You want me to send over a copy of the report that was given to the board?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay.
I would love that. Yeah.
Yeah. You got my email, right, Ken?
Mhm.
And if you don't get it, send it to you, Marie.
Yeah.
Cause that was a big question. That's interesting to find out, cause that was a big question of mine too. So they don't charge like a hybrid. They don't charge the battery as you're moving down the road.
Not enough to be significant. Like to make a big difference as you're going along. We just stay out there too long for those to be effective for us.
And when you say too long, you mean day and night service, not
So
just a 9-hour stretch.
So what we've found is that 200 to 300 miles for car works pretty well for cars for battery range, but you need to be able to keep a transit vehicle out there. It can be significantly longer than that, and most batteries aren't really suited for that at this point. So it was interesting.
Yeah. Does your study talk about levels of chargers?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Okay, so, just as a kind of a follow-up from some of the to-do items for our next meeting, it sounds like, we're going to get additional information from you, Ken, related to the, most recent information on ridership. We'll have that hopefully for the next meeting. And then we talked about Maria providing information or maybe a proposal related to rides with schools of choice in the community. And then if we also talked about maybe having an opportunity to touch base with your community relations staff members, just to come up with some ideas that can be shared with this group moving forward if we decide to recommend getting the millage on the ballot. Let's say in August might be the more reasonable time frame.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
I mean,
maybe,
we're just gearing up.
yeah, I know. So Kim, if you could, or either Maria, maybe provide the contact information.
Oh, yeah.
And Chris and I can reach out to them. The same, Ken, if you could get that up, get to me, and Chris and I'll reach out to them.
Okay,
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
You'll have Shasta's email, because she's gonna connect you by, I just gave her your emails
Okay,
to connect you about the signs, and then I can provide you with Marie's email.
okay, that sounds great.
okay.
Okay,
So what we're thinking is this would be communications related to millage in August
well,
or engagement
actually,
before then?
engagement beforehand,
Okay.
and potentially, what we might be able to do to just really educate the public and get feedback and kind of structure what direction we should take.
Okay,
Okay.
I just want to be clear up front that as a nonprofit, we're not allowed to tell people how to vote. We can just educate them that if you voted for this millage, this is how it would help.
And that's the same with local government. too, Maria.
Great.
We're on the same page on that one.
Awesome.
Okay. And then the other thing we talked about for the next meeting is to look at, maybe do the brainstorming related to options for service expansion. So those are the two major items we'll have on the agenda. Are there any others that we should include for the next meeting?
Did you just say the community engagement plan?
Yeah, the community engagement and then options for service expansion.
and like two pretty big items.
Yeah.
So though, yeah, I was just gonna say that second one is pretty big. Did you want? So we've kind of been talking about a couple things. In that area, in other words, the student schools of choice residents.
Yeah,
That's one service expansion. And then one of the other things I was thinking about is right now, Wave is running that Jackson corridor, okay, or Jackson connector, if you will, down to Jackson Plaza. It doesn't go all the way to the end of where to Wagner, which is the beginning of our Scio Township line, okay?
okay,
All right, so the question in my mind in terms of expansion, and I'm asking this because I wanted Marie to take a look at it, is right now, you're running every hour out to Meyer, every half hour. And Marie, what's the frequency on our leg of Jackson Road corridor to Jackson Plaza
I think we're every hour.
every hour?
Mhm.
So the question in my mind is, could we increase
the time.
the time that Wave can produce down? And then, of course, you guys have already talked to us in your letter about increasing frequency. So that's something, if you could think about that a little bit, Marie, and come bring that back to us and what that would look like and how much that would cost. What would the frequency be? Because it would be great if we could get to, I know that you guys are planning to get to every 15-minute frequency at some point, not now.
Right.
But we might be able to get to every 15 minutes or every 20 minutes frequency.
You made it more frequently,
The
making
bus is coming down.
right back and forth.
Yeah,
Well, and I guess, as we talk about options and recognizing that, just in terms of costs, we're not really, it may not be feasible to increase the cost of the service. Are there other ways that we can expand service without increasing the cost?
Okay.
So I think that's the part of the question.
sure.
Okay.
Okay.
But, I like the idea with the two of you working together, we might really be able to maximize and enhance services and not really have to charge more than what we're charging right now. we're charged the township.
Yeah, so for us, interest, it seems like there's an overlap in A-Ride
Mhm.
and our door-to-door, Wave door-to-door. But we don't pay for A-Ride. So, and that's something that the government, the federal government, as I understand it, requires them to put that out there so that we can't even play around with that, get rid of that for us and focus on frequency on Jackson Road. But maybe that's what we should, how can we focus on frequency for Jackson Road? That's the bulk of our riders, even for.
And expand because of areas not being covered right now. You know, as you look at the development map, we got quite a few developments that's coming online. And so, you know, thinking into the future, how do we incorporate that as part of our plan?
Mhm. So if I can just go back to this bottom page which says purpose, back to that transfer. You go across the spreadsheet to the right, the 31,000 to 16,000 over those two routes, Community Connector 1, Community Connector 2, which is now called the Jackson Road Connector. This is, correct me if I'm wrong, under CC1, the 31,517 people over 5 years, and that's coming from the east, which you would call the East Connector. Its furthest point is in Chelsea coming into Meyer, is that correct?
CC1 is Chelsea, Dexter, Meyer. Yep.
Okay, and then the CC2, which is now called the Jackson Road Connector, that's, where does that start and where does it end?
Let me look.
Just so people have an understanding of a little bit more
Mhm.
context.
Maps.
Because that, correct me if I'm wrong, the furthest that goes out west is Thornton Farm.
This is CC2.
Let me see that brochure.
Yeah. So we go.
Oh, I lost my pen. Thank you.
Looks like we go Meyer, Sunward Co-housing, Lakestone, Scio Farms, Menards,
Thornton Farms.
Farms, and then Deviation. Yep. So you're right, Thornton Farms.
And for everybody, that's at Parker. Parker and Jackson, and
Okay.
that's in Lima, but we go there, Wave goes there, okay.
Mhm.
So that's like from Thornton Farms into Jackson Plaza, all the way down to Jackson Plaza.
Mhm.
Right, okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other items before we go to public comment? Might have to get. Hey, Rob? Let me get somebody to help us with this.
I can see if I can.
We should be able to get ourselves on, Joyce. The way it's set up today for your meeting is we can unmute ourselves.
Okay, thank you, Pam.
Makes it easier for you. So I'll start. It's really short. The more I know, the less I know, or it's whatever that quote is. I really enjoyed your meeting today and the meeting before. I'm learning a whole lot about a topic I knew nothing about. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I've got a couple of questions. This is Rob Pattinson. Is AATA, is that our only contract? Is Wave and A-Ride and all of the other transportation systems, is that all under the umbrella of that $497,000 contract for 2024?
A-Ride is included as a demand response. However, Wave is not included. Unless it's.
Well, we don't know, that's
gonna
what
get-
Ken's gonna come back
We get the
and
clarification.
Yeah, we need to get clarification on that, Rob.
stay tuned,
Okay.
Rob.
Okay. Commissioner Moore, at the last meeting, there were some numbers that were batted around, where it was 23,000 rides, I think for a year, it may have been 2022. And then there was an adjustment later in the meeting to 15,000 rides, and that may have been just for the bus service itself, not the on-demand stuff.
Right.
That 23,000 rides in a year into $497,000 for the contract, that was $21 a ride. And then if it was 15,000 rides per year, that worked out to $31 or $33 per ride. That seems pretty expensive. Now granted, these routes are running all the time, whether or not they have passengers on them or not. But is that the number you were asking for at the beginning of the meeting? Was
So,
a
no,
per
they
ride cost?
no, so the 15,921 was riders along Jackson Road corridor, be it east or west. And the 23,346 were seniors and disabled using a ride. And both of those figures are 2023.
Oh, so those combined are the total number.
Sure.
Oh, interesting. Okay, that's a heck of a lot better price. Okay, good. And then could we get the handouts put into the agenda packet, both Commissioner Moore's and Ken's map? That would make it easier for us to follow along.
Yes, yes, we can do that.
Turn out a clean
Great,
copy
thank
without
you.
abuse.
Okay, all right.
And thank you, Christy Aiken, for getting the recording going. As always, she is a champion.
Yeah.
Thank you, Manager Parker, for using the Township Hall with all the AV system. That made it very easy.
Quite welcome.
And then lastly, and most importantly, welcome Chris Chang to Scio Township as our project manager. I'm very happy to see you have your running shoes on because you are going to be busy. I've been to all the meetings and everybody
Big
talks
job.
about, oh, once we get a project manager, we can do such and such.
Well, I feel for Chris because on his first day, I think we were all grabbing at him at the same time.
Right, right. Well, you're the man for the job. I was really impressed with you on Planning Commission and on the Roads Committee. So welcome to Scio and have fun. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob.
Okay, any others for public comment?
So to answer the question about is the only contract, the AATA the only two services for transportation are AATA and WAVE. Rob Patterson.
Okay, thank you.
And WAVE is paid through AATA. Ken was talking about the pass-through funds. So Scio pays AATA with the millage dollars, or AATA collects millage dollars directly. I'm not sure how that works, but then we are given the money through AATA.
Thank you both.
Mhm.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, if not, we're adjourned. Thank you
Sounds good to
to
me.
everyone for their participation.
Thank you so much, Ken.
Oh, thank you guys. I'm learning all
Thank
sorts.
you,
of things.
everyone.
We're keeping you busy, Ken.
You'll get better, Jan.
Yeah, I feel better,
Feel
Jan.
better.
I feel for you.
Well, thanks. Actually, I don't feel too bad. So,
Well, that's good. That's good.
yeah. Thanks for asking, though.
All
Okay.
right, thanks, everyone.
So I was just thinking, I sent you all of that information. You
You
just plug
probably
out.
did, I've been
Plug
running
it.
so much. I just got in before the meeting today and then I've been working on budget, so I'm kind of behind on email, so forgive me.
Yeah, no problem. I'm just saying you can just print that out.
Okay, I'll do that. Okay.
Were you out for fun or?
Oh, no, meetings.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Questions. First question I have is, so is there a disconnect? Ken, do you work directly with
AATA
AATA, the WAVE, which was Marie?
works for
For-
Wade.
So WAVE is separate from AATA.
Yes,
That's what I'm like, I thought you were.
Two separate entities.
Okay, there are two entities and separate entities. Okay.
And the reason why we funnel money is because the FTA, the Transit Administration, designates a main agency for distribution of transit funds for a particular area, and AETA, so for People's Express and for Wave and for everybody else in the county that gets federal funds, technically it all comes to us and then we push it out through them.
Before everybody leaves, should we look at, our next meeting in
Oh, yeah.
2 weeks or 1 week? I
Two
just
is
don't-
better for gathering information.
I know, I don't wanna run out of time.
That's the flip side of it.
16th,
February 16th? That's a Friday.
that's a week from,
Is Jan, are you still on?
I logged off.
yeah,
Logged off.
okay.
Maybe you need to send an email out.
I'll send it out to everyone.
Okay,
Um,
I could do either one.
16th is fine with me, and the next one on a Friday is the 23rd. Both of those are fine with me.
the 16th or the 23rd. Okay, I will send something out and get feedback, and if everybody's okay for the 16th, let's try the 16th.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay.